The boy lived in a small, crowded neighborhood in a big city. His house was modest, with peeling paint and a small garden that his mother tried to keep alive. The boy, only 12 years old, spent his mornings helping his mother with household chores. He swept the floors, washed the dishes, and sometimes helped carry water from the street tap. Even though he had little, he never complained and always wore a quiet smile. School was a mix of excitement and struggle. The boy loved learning, though. His school did not have enough books or modern facilities. Every morning he would walk miles to reach the school, his bag heavy with worn-out books. Despite the difficulty, he never missed a day. He loved the classroom, the feeling of discovering new things, and the small library where he could lose himself in stories of adventure and courage. The boy was also known for helping his neighbors. In his street there were elderly people who could not walk far, mothers busy with young children, and other children who needed guidance. He never hesitated to help. Sometimes he would carry groceries for an old woman or guide a younger child across the busy street. Everyone knew him as a kind and responsible boy, and even though he was small, people often trusted him more than adults because of his honesty. One morning, the boy woke up to the sound of birds singing and the faint noise of cars starting their busy day. He quickly dressed and went to fetch water. On the way, he noticed a little kitten stuck in a bush, frightened and meowing. Without hesitation, he carefully untangled it and held it close, whispering calming words. The kitten relaxed in his hands, purring softly. The boy smiled and gently carried it back to his home. He gave it some milk, cleaned it, and placed it near a sunny corner where it could rest. After breakfast, he ran to school, greeting neighbors along the way. Everyone knew him, and they would wave or call out his name. Even the shopkeepers smiled at him as he passed. At school, he focused on every lesson: math, reading, science. He paid attention, asked questions, and sometimes helped other children who struggled. One of his classmates had trouble writing properly, and the boy would sit with him during breaks, patiently showing him how to form letters and numbers. The teacher noticed his helpful nature and praised him quietly, but the boy never boasted. He did not need recognition. He found joy in helping others. After school, instead of running straight home to relax, he stopped by a small playground where younger children played. A group of children were trying to fly kites, but the wind kept turning them upside down. The boy knelt beside them, showing them how to hold the string properly and how to watch the wind. Soon the kites began soaring high, and the children cheered. The boy joined their laughter, enjoying the simple happiness that came from seeing others smile. Evenings were busy at home. The boy helped his mother prepare dinner, and sometimes he would even cook a simple meal himself. He would then sit down to do his homework, carefully writing in his notebook. After finishing, he would read a few pages from his favorite storybook. His favorite stories were about ordinary people who did brave things, people who showed courage even when it was difficult. These stories inspired him, and he often imagined himself in those situations, dreaming of the day he could help someone in a meaningful way. One day, as he walked home, he noticed a commotion near a narrow street corner. A group of children were surrounding a younger boy who had tripped and fallen. The boy rushed over and saw that the smaller child had hurt his knee and was crying. Without thinking, he knelt down, gently checking for injuries. He cleaned the scrape with water from his bottle, bandaged it with a piece of cloth, and reassured the boy. The other children watched silently as he comforted their friend. Soon, the crying stopped, and the smaller boy managed a small smile. The boy stood up, patted his shoulder, and reminded him to be careful next time. People passing by noticed the boy's kindness and careful actions. They smiled. Some whispered to each other about how unusual it was to see such calmness and bravery in a young child. The boy did not notice their attention. He only cared about helping the little boy. This simple act of care gave him a sense of pride, not for being praised, but for knowing he had made a difference. Back home, the boy's father returned from work. His father was tired but smiled warmly at the boy. They shared a quiet dinner together, talking about the day. The boy's father often told him stories of courage from his own childhood, stories of standing up for what is right and helping those in need. The boy listened carefully, absorbing every word. He knew that one day he would have to face a situation where his courage would be tested. He did not know when, but he felt ready to act if it ever came. One evening, after finishing homework and reading, the boy went out to the garden. He watched the sunset, thinking about the people around him, the stories he had read, and the little acts of kindness he had performed that day. He felt content, knowing that he had done his best, even in small ways. He thought about the neighbors, the children he helped, and even the kitten he saved earlier. Every action he believed mattered, no matter how small it seemed. The neighborhood was peaceful that night. Lights glimmered from windows, and distant sounds of the city filled the air. The boy lay on the grass for a while, staring at the stars, imagining the world beyond his street. He dreamed of one day making a real difference, not just in small acts, but in something that could touch many lives. He did not know how it would happen, but he was determined to be ready when it did. Days passed, and the boy continued his routine. School, chores, helping neighbors, small adventures in the streets and playgrounds, all while learning about courage and kindness in his own way. People around him started noticing a quiet strength in his character. He did not boast, did not seek attention, but everyone who met him felt a sense of trust and admiration. One afternoon, while returning from school, he noticed a stray dog trapped in a narrow alley. The dog was frightened, growling and trying to escape, but it could not move. The boy approached slowly, speaking in soft tones, trying not to scare the dog further. With careful movements, he managed to free it from the obstacle. The dog, still wary but grateful, licked his hand before running off into the street. The boy smiled, satisfied once again with a small act of courage and compassion. Even in small matters, the boy showed awareness and responsibility. He would pick up litter in the street, help neighbors carry things, and even guide tourists who seemed lost. Each act was a thread in the fabric of his character, weaving courage, humility, and kindness together. He did not know that all these small actions were preparing him for something bigger, something that would test his bravery in ways he had never imagined. The boy's life, though ordinary in many ways, was full of quiet heroism. His small acts of courage and kindness built a foundation that made him ready for the moment when real bravery would call. Unseen by him, a few streets away, a wealthy businessman watched the city from his high-rise office, unaware that soon their paths would cross in a way that would leave both lives changed forever. The boy went to bed that night thinking of nothing extraordinary, yet deep inside he felt a sense of purpose. He knew that courage was not only for heroes in stories, it could be shown by anyone, at any time, in any place. He fell asleep, dreaming of ordinary adventures and brave acts, unaware that very soon his courage would be needed in a real and dangerous way, a way that would make the world notice him. It was a bright morning, and the boy walked toward school with the same energy and excitement he always had. Birds were singing, the sun was warm, and the streets were buzzing with life. He waved to neighbors and smiled at familiar faces, feeling the small joys of everyday life. However, that day was different. Something unusual was about to happen that would test his courage in a way he had never imagined. As he turned a corner near a busy market street, he noticed a crowd forming near a narrow alley. People were talking, in worried voices, pointing at something in the middle of the street. Curiosity pushed him forward, and he quickly realized that a little boy, no older than 6 or 7, was stuck on the edge of a small bridge over a fast-flowing drain. The boy's legs trembled, and he was clinging to the railing for dear life. The current below was strong, and a slip could have been dangerous. Shouts and panicked voices surrounded the scene. Some adults were trying to reach the child, but the narrow bridge made it difficult. Others were holding onto ropes and sticks, but no one seemed to have the courage to get close enough. The little boy's face was pale, eyes wide with fear and tears streaming down his cheeks. The boy knew he could not just stand there and watch. He had to act. He ran toward the edge of the crowd, asking people to give him some space. He spoke calmly. "I will get him down. Stand back, please." Some people hesitated, worried about the risk, but they stepped aside, trusting his confidence. The boy had always been calm in tense situations, and his calmness now helped others trust him. He approached the child slowly, speaking softly. "It's okay, I am here. Don't be afraid. I will help you." The little boy looked at him, frightened, but sensing the sincerity in his voice. Carefully, the boy extended his hand, trying to reach the child. The current below rushed loudly and the water splashed against the walls of the drain. The situation was dangerous, but the boy did not waver. His mind focused entirely on helping the little child. He grabbed a small rope someone had thrown to him, tying it around his waist. With steady movements, he inched closer, making sure his balance did not fail. The crowd watched silently, holding their breath. The little boy clung to the railing, trembling, and the boy reassured him with gentle words. He reached the child, gently lifting him into his arms. The child clung tightly, sobbing but slowly calming down as the boy held him firmly. With careful steps, the boy retreated toward solid ground. Every movement required focus and precision. People were amazed to see such courage from someone so young. When he finally set the child safely on the ground, the crowd erupted in applause and relieved sighs. The little boy hugged him tightly, saying, "Thank you. Thank you for saving me." The boy smiled, brushing off the praise. "You are safe now. That's what matters," he replied. Among the crowd, a man in a crisp suit watched the entire scene. He was tall, with a commanding presence, and carried an air of importance. He had been walking past the area when he noticed the commotion. He did not know the boy, nor did he expect anyone to act so bravely. Yet here was a young child facing danger fearlessly. The man's eyes followed the boy as he helped the little one, and a sense of admiration began to grow. The man, a wealthy businessman who usually kept to himself, was struck by the boy's courage and composure. He had seen many people act recklessly in dangerous situations, but this boy's bravery was quiet, controlled, and selfless. For a moment, he felt a sense of humility. He realized that courage was not measured by wealth or status, but by the willingness to act for someone else without thinking of reward. After ensuring the little boy was unharmed and comforting him, the boy stepped back, letting the parents hug their child. They thanked him profusely, offering money and gifts. The boy shook his head gently. "I don't need anything. I just wanted him to be safe." His words surprised the parents, who were used to people expecting recognition or reward. They nodded, deeply moved by his humility, and walked away with their child. The businessman finally approached the boy, extending his hand. "Young man," he said, "what you did was very brave. Not many would have done what you just did. How can I thank you?" The boy smiled politely, wiping his hands on his shirt. "There is no need for thanks, sir. I only did what was right." The man was taken aback. He had expected at least a modest request, maybe even a wish for something expensive or desirable. But the boy's response was pure, simple, and honest. The businessman found himself at a loss for words. He had never met someone so young who acted with such bravery and humility. Curiosity made the businessman ask more questions. "Tell me, where do you live? How did you learn to act so calmly in a dangerous situation?" The boy replied, "I live nearby. My parents taught me to help people whenever I can, and I try to do what is right." His tone was calm, almost matter-of-fact, yet there was a quiet strength in it that impressed the man deeply. For a few minutes the two talked, the boy explaining that helping others was more important than personal gain. He spoke about small acts of kindness he did every day, helping neighbors, guiding children, caring for animals, and learning to be responsible. The businessman listened, amazed at the maturity of someone so young. The boy's words were not rehearsed or proud. They were sincere reflections of his life and values. Before leaving, the businessman offered again, "I insist on giving you something for your bravery. You deserve it." The boy shook his head, smiling. "Sir, all I want is to help. I don't need anything for myself." The businessman realized that this boy's mind and heart were not influenced by material wealth. His courage and selflessness came from a place much deeper, a place of genuine humanity. As the businessman walked away, he looked back one more time, thinking about the boy. He had seen many acts of heroism, but never one so humble and sincere. He knew he would remember this encounter for the rest of his life. Something about the boy's courage and kindness had left a mark on him, and he felt compelled to see how he could make a difference in the boy's life. Meanwhile, the boy continued. On his way to school, unaware of the impact he had made, he stopped to greet the shopkeepers, helped a small child cross the street, and even carried a basket of groceries for an elderly neighbor. For him, the day was no different than any other. He simply did what he thought was right. Courage, for him, was not about recognition or reward, it was about action. At school, he shared a quiet smile with his friends, helping them with their lessons, but he did not speak of the morning's incident. Teachers noticed his calm demeanor, and classmates felt a sense of admiration for him, even if they did not fully understand why. The boy did not seek attention, and yet his actions spoke volumes about his character. After school, he returned home and told his parents about small adventures of the day, carefully omitting the dangerous situation in the alley. His parents were proud, as always, of his good heart and responsible nature. They encouraged him to continue being helpful and brave, knowing that one day his courage would shine even brighter. That evening, the businessman called his assistant and instructed him to find out more about the boy. He felt an unusual connection, a sense that this child could be involved in something extraordinary in the future. Though he did not fully understand why, he was certain that the boy's bravery and humility were rare and valuable traits. The boy, meanwhile, went to sleep dreaming of ordinary adventures and small acts of kindness. He did not know that his actions had already caught the attention of someone influential. He had simply acted with courage and care, guided by the values instilled in him by his family and his own sense of right and wrong. Little did he know that the next days would bring challenges and opportunities that would test his bravery in ways he had never imagined. The alley incident was only the beginning, a moment that would set the stage for an extraordinary encounter, one that would show the world that true courage and humility can leave even the most powerful people speechless. The boy woke up early the next day, humming softly as he prepared for school. The sunlight streamed through the small window, and the streets below were already bustling with activity. Birds chirped in the trees, and the familiar sounds of vendors calling out their goods filled the air. Nothing seemed different, yet the boy could sense that today might hold something unusual, though he did not know what it would be. As he walked toward school, he noticed a black car slowly making its way down the street. The car stopped near the alley from the day before. Out stepped the businessman who had witnessed his act of bravery. He scanned the street until his eyes landed on the boy, and he waved politely. The boy paused, slightly surprised but not afraid. He nodded in return and continued walking, wondering why the man had stopped near his neighborhood. When school ended, the boy noticed the same man waiting near the gates. His presence was unusual, because wealthy people rarely came to the streets where ordinary children lived. The man approached slowly, a kind expression on his face. "Hello again," he said gently. "I wanted to see you and thank you personally for what you did yesterday. Your courage and calmness were remarkable." The boy smiled politely. "Thank you, sir. I just helped the child. Anyone would have done the same." The businessman shook his head. "Not everyone, young man. Many people would have hesitated. You showed bravery and care. I want to understand more about you if you don't mind." The boy hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I don't mind, I live nearby. My parents teach me to help whenever I can, and I try to do the right thing." The businessman was curious. "And you are not afraid, even when it was dangerous?" The boy shrugged. "I was scared, but someone needed help. I thought if I stayed calm and focused, I could do it safely. Fear is normal, but it shouldn't stop us from helping others." The man looked at him, amazed at the boy's clarity and wisdom. He had met adults who were less brave and less kind. This child, despite his age and small size, had a sense of responsibility and courage that few people could match. "You are extraordinary," the man said softly, almost to himself. The boy felt a mix of pride and humility. He did not like being called extraordinary. He simply wanted to help. "I just do what I think is right," he said. "That is all." The businessman nodded thoughtfully. "I see. But the way you act without thinking of yourself, that is rare. I want to offer you something as a token of my gratitude. Please, accept it." The boy shook his head gently. "Sir, I don't need anything. I only wanted to help. That is enough for me." The man was silent for a moment. He had expected a request for money or gifts, perhaps even a reward for school or toys. But the boy's answer was pure and sincere, showing humility and selflessness. He realized that this child's heart was untouched by greed or desire for recognition. His mind and soul were focused on doing good without expectation. "I understand," the man said finally, a soft smile on his face. "But still, I wish to do something for you, something meaningful. I would like to know what would make your life better, or help others around you. Anything you need, I will try to provide." The boy thought for a moment, remembering his neighborhood, the struggles of his friends and neighbors, and the children who had no proper playgrounds or resources. "Sir, if you want to help, there is one thing I wish for," he said quietly. "Some children in our street don't have books or a place to study properly. If there was a small library or a place for them to learn, that would be very helpful. That is all I wish for." The businessman was taken aback. He had expected a personal request, but the boy's concern was for others. "You mean not for yourself, but for other children?" he asked. "Yes," the boy replied firmly. "I have enough for myself. If you can help others, that would be the best thing." The businessman felt a warmth in his chest that he had not felt in years. This child had shown him something rare: humility, courage, and a deep sense of care for others. He had acted bravely in danger, and now he was thinking of the well-being of others rather than himself. "You are very special," the man said softly. "I promise I will try to make this happen. Thank you for teaching me what true kindness and courage are." For the boy, it was another day of ordinary life. He did not expect anything in return. He walked home carrying his school bag and smiling at the familiar streets. Neighbors waved at him, children called his name, and he greeted them all warmly. The incident with the businessman had not changed his routine. He remained grounded, humble, and focused on helping those around him. At home, his parents asked about his day. He told them about the morning, carefully describing the events without exaggeration. His parents were proud but not surprised. They had always encouraged him to act responsibly and kindly. "You have a good heart," his father said. "Always keep it. That is what makes someone truly brave." That evening, the businessman left the boy's neighborhood with a feeling he had never felt before. He thought about the boy, his bravery, and his humble nature. He realized that the world often valued wealth and power, but courage and kindness were worth more than anything money could buy. The boy had left a lasting impression, and he knew he would return to see how he could support the boy's vision for helping others. The next few days were filled with the boy's usual routine. He continued helping neighbors, guiding children, and performing small acts of kindness. Each day he demonstrated quiet courage in simple ways, whether it was helping someone cross the street, rescuing a stray animal, or simply offering a kind word to someone in need. People around him started noticing his actions, appreciating the strength and goodness in his character. One afternoon, the boy and a few friends were playing near a dusty street when they noticed a stray dog trapped under a broken fence. The dog was scared, growling, and unable to move. Without hesitation, the boy ran toward it, speaking softly to calm it down. With careful hands, he freed the dog from the fence. The children watched in awe as he gently patted the dog and made sure it could walk safely away. It was another small act, but to the boy it was just helping as he always did. Later that evening, the businessman returned quietly to observe the neighborhood. He wanted to see the boy in action again. From a distance, he noticed how the boy interacted with others, his patience, kindness, and natural leadership. He smiled quietly to himself, realizing that true greatness was not measured by wealth or power, but by courage, humility, and the desire to help others. The boy, unaware of the man watching him, continued his life with the same routine. He studied, helped, and played, always ready to act when needed. His actions were not driven by the hope of recognition or reward, but by a genuine desire to do good. His bravery was quiet, his heart generous, and his character strong. These qualities would soon lead him to an encounter that would change both his life and the businessman's life forever. At night, as the boy lay on his small bed, he thought about the children in his street who struggled to study and play. He imagined a place where they could learn, read books, and dream about the future. It was a simple wish, but in his heart it felt important. He did not know how it would happen, but he hoped that someday Someone would help make this dream a reality. The businessman, on the other hand, returned to his high-rise office and could not stop thinking about the boy. He had met many people in his life, but this child's courage, humility, and concern for others had left him speechless. He decided that he would do whatever he could to support the boy and his vision. He wanted to create an opportunity for the children in the neighborhood, just as the boy had asked. Days turned into weeks, and life continued with small adventures and challenges. The boy remained humble, unaware of the influence he had begun to have on someone powerful. He acted with courage in everyday situations, proving that true bravery is not about grand gestures but about doing what is right, even when no one is watching. The neighborhood slowly began to change as the businessman quietly worked behind the scenes, inspired by the boy's vision. Plans were made for a small library and learning center, a safe space for children to grow and explore. He wanted it to be perfect, just as the boy had imagined. But all of this remained a secret, and the boy continued living his life, focused on helping others and acting bravely in ordinary ways. The boy's story was spreading quietly, reaching the ears of people who noticed his courage and kindness. Yet he remained unaware of the growing admiration around him. To him, life was simple: help others when you can, act bravely when needed, and always do what is right. This natural, humble approach to life was what made him special, and it was only a matter of time before the world would see it in a way that would leave everyone, including the businessman, amazed and inspired. The boy's days continued with the same rhythm: school in the morning, helping neighbors, small adventures in the streets, and quiet evenings at home. But there was a feeling in the air that something important was approaching. He could not see it yet, but the events of the day were slowly building toward a moment that would require not only his courage, but also his heart. One afternoon, as he was helping an elderly neighbor carry bags of vegetables, he noticed the businessman watching from a distance. This time the man approached with a warm smile. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said politely. "I just wanted to speak with you for a moment." The boy nodded and set down the bags. He was curious but not intimidated. He had met the man before, and though the man was rich and powerful, the boy did not feel small or unworthy. His confidence came from knowing that his actions were guided by honesty and kindness. The businessman spoke with gentle respect. "I have been thinking about your words, about how you care for others and the children in your neighborhood. I want to help. Can you tell me what would truly make a difference?" The boy thought for a moment, remembering the children who had no proper place to study, the torn books, and the dusty street corners where they tried to read. He had seen the frustration on their faces when they wanted to learn, but had nothing to help them. With a calm but determined voice, he said, "Sir, there are many children who don't have books or a safe place to learn. If there was a small library or a center where we could study, read, and play safely, it would change everything. That is all I want." The businessman paused, surprised by the simplicity and selflessness of the request. He had expected something for the boy personally, something to reward his bravery. But instead, the boy had thought of others. The businessman felt a sense of awe. He had seen generosity before, but never such a pure desire to help others without thinking of personal gain. "Are you sure, young man?" the businessman asked. "You are not asking for anything for yourself?" The boy shook his head. "I have enough for myself. What matters is helping those who have less. If we can give children a place to learn and grow, that is enough reward for me." The man was silent for a moment, reflecting on the boy's words. In his world, people often sought recognition, money, or fame. Here was a child no more than 12, showing courage, wisdom, and humility far beyond his years. "You are remarkable," he said softly. "I will do everything I can to make this happen." The boy smiled politely. He was not expecting anything, but his heart felt lighter knowing that someone powerful was willing to help bring his simple wish to life. He explained the details: a place with books, some desks, a few computers if possible, and a safe area for children to gather. The businessman listened carefully, taking notes, and promised to begin planning immediately. Days passed, and the boy continued his routine without expecting anything in return. He helped neighbors, tutored younger children, and played with his friends in the streets. Yet quietly, the businessman was working behind the scenes. He arranged meetings with architects, gathered books and materials, and even contacted teachers to create a proper learning environment. All of this was done in secrecy, so that when the time came, the boy would be surprised. One afternoon, as the boy was walking home from school, he saw a small group of children struggling with a stack of old books. They were trying to read and learn, but the pages were torn and the words were faded. He knelt beside them, helping to explain the lessons, encouraging them not to give up. The children looked at him with admiration and trust, knowing he genuinely cared. "Don't worry," he said gently. "Someday you will have better books and a proper place to learn. We just need to be patient and keep trying." His words were not empty promises. The businessman had already started working to make this dream a reality. He visited the neighborhood frequently, observing the boy's interactions, and was constantly inspired by the boy's humility and concern for others. Every small act of kindness the boy performed reminded him why it was worth investing in this vision. One evening, the boy sat under a tree with his friends, sharing stories and helping each other with homework. He noticed the businessman approaching again. This time, the man did not speak immediately. He watched quietly, observing the boy's interactions with the children. The way the boy listened, encouraged, and guided them was remarkable. He had a natural way of making others feel safe and confident. Finally, the man spoke. "I am ready to show you something I hope will help the children in your neighborhood." The boy looked at him, curiosity mixed with calmness. "What is it?" he asked. The businessman smiled and led the boy to a nearby empty lot. There, construction workers were preparing the foundation for a small building. "This will be a place for children to learn, read, and play safely," the man said. "Books, desks, computers, and teachers will be here. And it is all because of your wish, your vision, and your courage to speak up." The boy's eyes widened. He had never expected such a thing. "All of this? For the children?" he asked softly. "Yes," the man replied. "Your humble request and your bravery inspired me. I want to make sure these children have the chance to learn and grow. You showed me that courage and humility can change the world even in small ways." The boy felt a deep sense of gratitude, but he did not boast or take credit. Instead, he looked at the children playing nearby and smiled. "They will be very happy," he said. "That is all I wanted." The businessman was deeply moved. He had witnessed many acts of generosity, but none so genuine and selfless as this child's. He realized that true power was not in money or influence, but in the ability to recognize and nurture goodness in others. The boy had shown him that courage and humility could inspire real change. As the building took shape over the following weeks, the boy continued his daily routine. He helped neighbors, guided children, and performed small acts of kindness. Yet every time he passed the construction site, he felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that his simple wish was coming true. He did not seek recognition, but the knowledge that he had helped others brought him joy. One afternoon, while helping a friend with reading, the boy noticed the businessman watching from a distance again. This time the man's expression was softer, almost emotional. He had seen the boy in action countless times now, and each time he felt a growing admiration and respect. The boy's courage, humility, and selflessness were rare qualities, and the man knew that they would leave a lasting impact on the world. The boy spoke softly to his friend, explaining a difficult lesson. He encouraged the child to ask questions and think critically. The way he guided others was not only helpful but also inspiring. The businessman watched quietly, understanding that true leadership and greatness came from a heart willing to serve others. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the boy sat quietly, thinking about the children who would soon have a place to learn. He did not know that his actions had already inspired someone influential to take meaningful steps. He only knew that he had made a wish, and it was starting to become a reality. That night, as he lay in bed, he thought about the day's events. He realized that courage was not only about facing danger, but also about speaking up for what is right and caring for others. He felt content, knowing that even a humble request made with sincerity and care could lead to something extraordinary. The businessman, meanwhile, returned to his office filled with admiration for the boy. He had learned a valuable lesson. True courage and humility can inspire change in ways that no amount of wealth or power could achieve. The boy's story continued to unfold, and the library and learning center were slowly becoming a reality. Children in the neighborhood began to dream of new possibilities, inspired by the bravery and kindness of a young boy who had acted without expectation. The businessman, now a quiet supporter, marveled at how one humble request had the power to create hope, opportunities, and a lasting impact. The boy remained unchanged, focused on helping others, acting bravely in small ways, and living with a heart full of kindness. He did not seek recognition, and yet the world around him was beginning to notice. His humble request, born from a genuine desire to help, had already set a chain of events in motion that would touch many lives and leave a mark far beyond his neighborhood. The boy woke up to another bright morning, the sun spilling light over his modest home. Life had returned to its quiet rhythm, but now there was an undercurrent of excitement. Construction had begun on the small learning center he had wished for, and every day he passed the site, watching the foundation take shape. His heart swelled with hope. School that day seemed more vibrant than usual. Children whispered to each other, casting glances at the boy, knowing that something extraordinary was underway because of him. Some classmates sought his guidance with greater respect, inspired by the courage and vision he had displayed. Though he did not realize it, the boy had become a symbol of hope in his neighborhood. He treated everyone the same as before, helping classmates with homework, guiding younger children, and sharing quiet laughs with friends. The businessman continued to observe, maintaining a discreet distance. He had watched the boy's consistent acts of kindness and realized that the child's influence was growing steadily. He often thought about how much he had learned from this young boy, the true meaning of humility, courage, and selflessness. Despite his wealth and power, he had never encountered someone who inspired him in the same way. One afternoon, a small group of children gathered around the boy, holding scraps of paper and makeshift pens. They were attempting to solve simple exercises, but the faded papers made it difficult. The boy knelt beside them, gently guiding their hands and explaining the lessons. His patience was endless, and the children felt safe under his care. It was a natural instinct for him to nurture, to help, and to lead without demanding attention or reward. Nearby, the businessman watched quietly, smiling to himself. The boy's dedication to the children, his courage in small and ordinary acts, had impressed him far more than the grand gestures he was used to seeing. Here was a child who inspired others simply by being himself. The businessman realized that real impact did not come from money or authority. It came from genuine care, bravery, and humility. Weeks turned into months. The construction of the learning center progressed steadily. Walls were built, windows were fitted, desks arranged, and shelves for books installed. The businessman had ensured that the center was not just a building, but a space where children could explore, learn, and dream freely. He invited teachers who shared the boy's values to help guide the children. The boy was involved in every small decision, from selecting books to choosing colors for the walls. His input was thoughtful, always focused on the well-being and happiness of the children. One morning, the boy arrived at the construction site and was greeted by the sight of the completed building. He walked slowly, taking in every detail: the bright walls, the neatly arranged desks, the shelves stacked with books, and the small playground at the back. Children ran and laughed around the center, their joy echoing through the air. The boy's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. This was a dream turned into reality, not because of him alone, but because he had shown courage and humility that inspired someone powerful to act. The businessman approached quietly, a gentle smile on his face. "You have done something remarkable," he said softly. "This center is a result of your vision, your courage, and your care for others. You have changed the lives of many children, and in doing so, you have changed mine as well." The boy looked at him humbly. "I only wish to help." "I did not expect all of this," he replied softly. "I am happy that children will have a place to learn and grow." The businessman nodded, feeling deeply moved. He had learned that true greatness was not measured by wealth, influence, or status, but by the ability to act with courage, humility, and kindness. This young boy with no wealth or authority had shown him a lesson that he would carry for the rest of his life.